Hi guys, welcome back to the channel for another video. Today I'm making a video about something I can't believe I haven't spoken about before because I've been asked about it a lot. It's been coming up in my questions on Instagram quite a bit recently, and clients have been asking about it too, so there must be something in the air. And that is quasi-recovery. That's a term that is new to me, or has been for about the last year since I saw it popping up in recovery spaces, in recovery content. And I think it's great because it puts a name to something which is so common, which so many of us experience, myself included. And that is the sense of being stuck in your recovery process. This can happen once, multiple times. It may never happen at all. The most important thing to know is that it's really, really normal. And the next most important thing to know is that you can get out of it. I have a bit of a theory that I share with clients about what quasi-recovery is all about. And it may not be relevant to every instance of quasi-recovery, but I think it is a pretty common theme across the board. And that is that as we continue to gain territory that we are taking back from the eating disorder self, and the healthy self is stepping in more and finding better ways to cope, finding evidence that, discounts and discredits what the eating disorder self has made us believe food will do, or movement will do, or all these beliefs that it takes as fact. As we start to discredit that and gain traction, the eating disorder self starts to freak out a little bit. And where it had no room for compromise or flexibility before, suddenly it is a compromising machine. It's a massive negotiator. As it sees the healthy self gaining ground, it starts to make offers or promises that if you continue to allow it to exist in these areas, to enforce certain rules, maybe slightly more flexible rules, maybe rules that don't stop you from leaving the house or seeing your friends and family. If you allow it to still exist in this, slightly smaller space, then it will give you permission to hold on to all the progress that you've made with your healthy self. And I think that's where we can get a bit stuck, that as life gets better and we become more free and more flexible, we are this can kind of be like a pink cloud experience of like, I can't believe that life can actually be like this, that I can have this level of freedom. And so we are a little bit prone to compromise and say, well, I'm kind of happy to sit here. I'm kind of happy to settle for this. And I think an important distinction to make, and I really do want to make this, because being quite tough on ourselves as we can be when we have eating disorders, or we're prone to eating disorders. A lot of us have perfectionistic personality types, that we put so much pressure on ourselves, even in recovery. And I say to clients all the time, this is going to be the most humbling experience for your perfectionistic part of yourself, because everybody sucks at recovery at certain stages. There is, just this great big realization that the only way you're actually going to be any good at recovery is by sucking at it. You have to fail, you have to figure stuff out, you have to slip up, you have to gain these insights by finding the lesson in those slip-ups. So when we have that perfectionistic streak or tendency, or we're incredibly self-critical, it's normal that we then apply that perfectionistic filter to recovery and push ourselves, and constantly trying to get to the next stage, and constantly trying to get to that recovered finish line, right? We can get a little bit obsessed about being recovered and forget that it's all about the process, that the process is the most important part of getting to that stage. And that is exhausting. People do experience recovery burnout. I know that I did. I've made videos about it. Huge recovery burnout. What I advised as one of the ways to avoid quasi-recovery is to take a break, is to give yourself a second as you do gain territory, as you do make great progress, as you have these wins, as you have these experiences, is to sort of let yourself sit in that for a hot second. Let yourself have a look at how different things are, what you've accomplished, how much more flexible life is, how much more enjoyable it is, how much more present you can be, how much more free you are with food, how much enjoyment you're starting to have with certain foods, even if it's still a little bit of anxiety there, that you give yourself the opportunity to really sit in that accomplishment and that progress. Because if you don't, there's a couple of things. Burnout, you just keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and not giving yourself a rest. The other thing is that it's not terribly motivating to do all this hard work and then not even allow yourself to have a sense of pride and accomplishment. So making space for yourself to feel that, do some really specific journaling about it. I talk to clients, when they have a big breakthrough, I'm like, get your journal out, send me some writing. I want to see it this week, whether or not it's about a fear food that was conquered, whether it was going out to dinner with family and not having disordered thoughts, whether it was being able to go on holiday and sit in a bikini and tolerate the bad feelings, not for it to be perfect, but just to sit in tolerance. So to sit in tolerance, that sounds like it could make no sense, but get out of your own head, Mia. That's important if you hit quasi-recovery as well, because you have all of these testimonies about what you've been capable of doing before, and the formula always stays the same. Even if you hit a snag, a slip up, moment of complacency, you have evidence to say that you've got yourself into a good space before and you can do it again. If you find yourself in quasi-recovery and you're beating yourself up about it, that's your first mistake. You gotta look at how you're talking to yourself, look at how you are using language, and that's the first way to get it back on track, is to get your healthy self back up to the forefront and to start responding to some of those beliefs about what quasi-recovery means. If you're telling yourself that you've failed, if you're telling yourself you've undone all of your work, that's not possible. Just like your wins don't cancel out your slip-ups don't cancel out your wins. They live independently of themselves and each other. So not beating yourself up is absolutely the first step. As I just mentioned, there are formulas that we start to figure out are working for us. Go back. This is again why journaling is so important, giving yourself this blueprint and these clues about what does help you, what's helped in the past will likely work again. So taking some time to make a list of all the things that have worked when it has been working. Some of those things will likely include help seeking, reaching out, letting somebody know what's really going on. There's that little voice in our head saying, don't tell anybody, it's fine, you can get back on track in like a week. Well, the fastest way to do that is to tell somebody, is to share it. And that's less about their reaction and how they can, actually practically help you get back on top of it. It's more that you are taking the step of saying what's really going on and advocating for yourself and taking that sense of agency back for the healthy self. So help seeking, super, super, super important. Stating what is going on and then figuring out how to get on top of it. Getting plugged back in with resources, also super important. People online who are recovered or recovering, who are great examples of this process, who maybe have gone through this before, who have spoken about quasi-recovery. There's definitely heaps of it out there. Getting back into routine and structure, whether it's with your eating or your coping skills, starting your day off with some kind of recovery structure, getting back into maybe a 3-meal, 3-snack structure with eating, and keeping yourself accountable. But most importantly, forgiving yourself for whatever it is that led to quasi-recovery and using it as a blueprint for how to avoid it in the future. All this stuff comes with lessons, guys. All this stuff comes with really valuable information, which is going to benefit you in the future. Guys, I hope you found that really helpful. Let me know if you've had experience with quasi-recovery in the comments below and what you did to get out of it. Come and find me on Instagram and Twitter under What Mia Did Next. I will see you next week in the next video. Much love. Take care. Bye, guys.